Scott Duffy is an entrepreneur and keynote speaker. He is the founder of AI Mavericks. Prior to AI Ventures, Scott founded Smart Charter, which was acquired by Richard Branson's Virgin Group. He held leadership roles at FoxSports.com, NBC Internet, and CBS Sportsline. He started his career working for Tony Robbins. Scott is listed as a top 10 speaker by Entrepreneur. He has spoken at the New York Stock Exchange and provided commentary in numerous media outlets, including CNBC, Fox News, and CBS Radio. He has served as special project editor at Inc., VIP contributor at Entrepreneur, and co-host of a top podcast for Microsoft. Now, please help me give it up for our keynote speaker, Scott Duffy.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. It's so great to be here. I was talking to Eugene in the back just a few minutes ago and kind of changed the way I thought I'd kick things off. I wanted to start now by sharing a story. So a few years ago, I had this opportunity to go to a venture capital conference, and it was being hosted by one of the top VCs in the Bay Area. And before we went, we had to sign these NDAs and say we wouldn't tell anybody that we were going, we wouldn't share anything that happened there, and this whole thing was like a big secret. But I was really excited to go. And that first day when I got there and it was time to check in, what I did is I walked up to this table where they registered me, and they gave me a t-shirt. And I was told to go find everybody else that was there that had the same color t-shirt, because we were gonna make up like a team. And we were gonna go on this scavenger hunt around the big island of Hawaii. So I'm really excited, and then I start looking around. So I look over here, I see the first person on my team. It's Dick Costello. And Dick ended up becoming the head of Twitter and ran it for years. And then I looked over here and I saw Bill Tai, like the iconic venture capitalist. And then I found Sarah Lacy, like this iconic writer. And so I said to myself, with that brain power, there's absolutely no way that we can't win. But we can't find the last guy that makes up our team. And so I'm walking around, and I turned around and I bumped into him, MC Hammer. You guys remember MC Hammer? Okay, right, this rapper, this dancer, this incredible entrepreneur. And so here's what we did. We get in this van and we go to our first clue. And so we get over to our first clue, and there's these sticks and these rocks and things like that. And me and Dick and Bill and Sarah, we can't figure it out. Now Hammer, he's over here, and he's talking on the phone, and he's looking at the ocean, he's talking to his boys. So I'm like, Hammer, do you mind coming over and helping us out? And he said, no problem. So he walks over, he says, give me that clue. He reads it one time, he steps back, and he goes, do this, 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 and this. He drops the paper, like he literally dropped the mic, and he was right. And so we went to our second clue. And the second clue was this thing up in a tree. And me and Dick and Bill and Sarah, we can't figure it out. Hammer, would you come over and help? He said, no problem. He came over, he read the clue, he stepped back, and he goes, do this, 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 and this, and he was right again. We had 8 clues to solve that day, and I think MC Hammer solved every single one. It was incredible. And I remember that night, I was at the bar with a bunch of people talking, and I ran into him. And I said, Hammer, that was absolutely incredible. I said, how did you do that? And he started to laugh, and he said this. He said, you business people, he said, you're all the same. You start over here with this big goal, and you want to get over here. But every one of you figures out how to make things so damn complicated in between. And he said, I live my life by a very simple rule. He said, I always find a way to the simplest path first. I always find a way to the simplest path first. And so that's what I'd like to do today. What I'd like to do is make AI simple. I'd like to share with you a few ideas to help you to really get a firm rooting or foundation or understanding for what AI is. Talk to you about how it's going to impact your business, and then what you can do today in order to get started. So if we want to bring that up, here we go. The way I'm going to structure this presentation is this. I'm going to break it into 4 parts. So the first part is where we've been. The second is where we are today. The third is what's coming next. And finally, not only what does this mean to your business, but what can we do to start now? So first, I just want to talk real quick about the birth of AI. So AI was actually created, the term was first used in the 1950s. And over that time, over nearly 70 years, there's been a ton of innovations and great things that have happened. And I could probably explain the technical stuff, but the truth is, I'm a business guy and I really don't understand most of it. So as a business guy, I like to focus on the fun stuff. So some of the key milestones are these. In 1994, AI became the world checker champion. In 1997, it became the world chess champion. In 2011, AI beat Ken Jennings from Jeopardy and became the world Jeopardy champion. And then finally, in 2019, it solved the Rubik's Cube in less than 1/4 of a second and became the Rubik's Cube champion. But for nearly 70 years, AI really remained out of reach for most of us. So to give you some perspective, the internet was started in 1969, but it wasn't until December of 1994 with the launch of the first browser. It was called Netscape Navigator, if any of you guys remember this. The first browser, like the first Chrome, Safari type of thing, that any of us were really able to use it, and it became like a commercial tool. It took 25 years from the time that the internet was developed until all of us had access. Now, in contrast, with AI getting kicked off in the 50s, it took nearly 70 years until the launch of ChatGPT, and all of us had a way to be able to interact with it. So the question is, what is the tipping point? What is it that enabled all of this great stuff to happen in the last 2 to 3 years? Now, I'm a business guy. I don't care about the tech stuff. So I'm going to try and oversimplify all of this, okay? So here's what happened. In the early 80s and 90s, we started to develop these things called neural networks. I don't care about the tech. Here's all you need to know. If you asked a neural network, what is it that you do? It would say this: I understand human language. That's it. That's all you need to know. But that's kind of limited. And so what happened is over the next 10 to 15 years, researchers tried to make that smarter. And what they did is they created these models called transformers in 2017. Now, a transformer is just like a neural network on steroids. It's a form of a neural network. And if you asked a transformer, what do? It would simply say this: I can read a book, I can memorize everything. If you ask me a question, I know where to find it. If you ask me to write a story, I can, based on what I learned. Super simple, that's all you need to know. But that's fairly limited. And so researchers over the next 1 to 2 years started to develop these things called large language models. So we went neural networks to transformers to large language models. If you asked an LLM what it was, here's all you need to know. It would say this: I can read 1 million books. I can read 1 billion books. I can remember everything. If you ask me a question, I know how to answer it. If you ask me to create a video or a picture or give you the answer, I can do all that based on what I've learned. Does that make sense? So that's really all that's happened. The problem that we had was this: we had this tech, these large language models, that could go read all this stuff and they could learn, but we didn't have enough power to actually make that happen, to really take advantage of the tech being developed. There were 2 types of computer chips. The first, really simply, is called a CPU. And the CPU, the biggest manufacturer for years was Intel. Intel inside your computer. What that kind of chip could do is work in a really linear way. It could do one thing at a time. So the example is, you turn your computer on, and it recognizes that. It makes a sound. Just in a line, it lights up the screen. It loads your operating system. That's a CPU. A GPU is a graphical processing unit. Just think of it that way. What's cool about these is that NVIDIA was the biggest maker of these graphics processing units. What's cool about these things is they can do a lot of stuff at once. They can parallel process. So think about it this way. If you're playing a video game and you're looking straight ahead, you have what it looks like. But if you look over here, the video game needs to instantly know what that looks like over there and what that looks like over there. So it has to do all this processing. The GPU enabled that to happen. And the biggest player in the world in that space was NVIDIA. So these are the breakthroughs. Here's what happened about 3 years ago that really changed everything. And it all happened like all at once. Like all of that work kind of paid off at the same time. The first is this. NVIDIA took the chips they were using for video games, adapted them for AI, and created this H100 chip that was just incredibly powerful. So the first time we had the power and the speed that we needed to do what this technology was capable of. In 3-4 years, NVIDIA's gone from the time they created that chip to nearly $200 billion in value to almost $2 trillion in value, making it, at times, the most valuable company in the world. So now that we had this power, the next thing we needed was the software. Like, what's gonna be the consumer application? And the first consumer application was ChatGPT from OpenAI. And ChatGPT was so popular that in 8 weeks, it had 100 million users, and still today is the most popular large language model in the world. And then finally is the application layer. So we have the power with the hardware, we have the software with ChatGPT, and then Microsoft came and they said, you know what? A month later, they said, we're gonna invest $10 billion. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna take that and we're gonna put it in all of our stuff, all of our docs, all of our computers, and really push it out. And those three things happened in a really short period of time, creating this world that we live in. So where are we today? So the AI industry, obviously, we all hear about it, it's exploding. Right now, because we're early, the industry is developing all these categories, and some of the leaders are starting to take shape. The spending on AI has gone through the roof. From $150 billion in 2023 to a projected almost $2 trillion right around the corner. And the question is, what is fueling the growth right now? What's fueling the growth right now is we're early, so it's infrastructure. Over 60% of all of the money being invested in AI is going to chips, to data centers, to power, to things like that. And this investing, this funding in AI companies has done this. Since 2022, in only 3 years, there are 50 new unicorns in AI, $50 billion private companies that have merged. And 1/3 of venture capital last year around the world went to AI. But to me, with this is the most important thing. There is a perception that people have that AI is everywhere, because it's all over the news. You hear people talking about it everywhere. And most of the people that I talk to that lead companies, they tell me this: I'm stuck. I feel stuck between this fear of missing out and this fear of jumping in. Like, I really just don't even know where to start. And it feels like everyone else on the planet, all of my competitors are using AI. According to Goldman Sachs, in December of 2024, only 6.1% of companies in America are using AI yet. Only 1% of companies in America are proficient in using AI. And again, to give you some perspective, I want to compare where we are now with AI versus where we were 24 months into the internet. So the internet, that first commercial browser, the Netscape Navigator, that was launched in December of 94. So if you go 2 years out, December of 96, and you compare that to when ChatGPT was launched, 2 years out where we are today, here's what you find. 2 years out with the internet, AOL was the hardware. Almost everyone in America used America Online to get on the internet. Like, you remember those crazy discs? Like, that's how we got on the internet. Netscape was the most popular browser in the world. Yahoo was the most popular application. And the one position that everybody tried to hire, the most valuable job you could have at that time, was a chief internet officer. They said you'd be dead without it. 2 years into AI, NVIDIA is the software. OpenAI's ChatGPT, NVIDIA is the hardware, OpenAI is the software, and Microsoft's Copilot is the leading application. And the number one job that people tell us we need to hire in our companies is a prompt engineer. But here's what's different between the pace of change with the internet and the pace of change with AI. So back in the day, like when I was growing up, the pace of change in business was relatively slow. Like it was linear. We could literally look outside of our window, we could see our competitors. We knew if they were growing because they were expanding or they were shrinking because they were moving out. But the internet changed everything, tech changed everything. And what happened was change went from moving at a linear pace to an exponential pace. We had this law that we used to run by on the internet, which said this. It was called Moore's Law. Every 2 years, the power of a chip, the power that we have, will increase 100%. It'll double. Every 2 years, it'll double. With AI, the speed that it's moving at, in 10 years, the power of the chip will not double. It's going to increase 1 million-fold. 1 million-fold. Think about that. But there's challenges that we have. Again, because this is a new industry and we're all learning and the infrastructure is being laid down. And the first is this. The first challenge that we have to growth and innovation is materials. These NVIDIA chips that I'm talking about cost $30,000 to $40,000 each. So companies like Microsoft and X and OpenAI, they're spending $5 to $10 billion per order in order to build what they have. Who can compete? Power. This is a gigantic problem. Think about this. Today, Microsoft and OpenAI open one new data center to house these chips every 3 days. At the current rate, in 5 years, if you just look at the Microsoft OpenAI data centers, no other data center in the country, those alone are going to take up 10% of what's produced on our national energy grid. 10% just from them. This problem is so bad that Microsoft just took over 3 Mile Island, the nuclear facility that was closed, and they're going to try and turn that on and use nuclear in order to power what they're putting online over the next 5 years. Labor has been a problem also. In the Bay Area, I was just there last week, in the Bay Area, an AI engineer can get up to $900,000 as a starting salary, 2 times the stock that they got last year. And they typically are asking for your company to invest at least $400 million in chips in order for them to work there. How crazy is that? It's been a tough capital market for startups, and like I said earlier, a lot of businesses are feeling overwhelmed. So this is really powerful. What's coming next? This year is when things start to shift. This is the year. So competition is going to become incredibly fierce, and prices are going to start to come down for everything. Here's a great recent example. So OpenAI and ChatGPT, that launched in November, it's actually 22. It took 10 years. They've been around for 10 years. They've raised $18 billion. They've spent $100 million training the model, and they have 4,500 employees. Last month, DeepSeek from China came out. And if you've seen it in the news, here's the reason why. In only 2 years, and less than 10 million raised, and less than 6 million in training, and 200 employees, they built a competitor to ChatGPT that in many cases surpasses ChatGPT's capabilities. What's really cool about DeepSeek is they open sourced everything. So what they said is, they said, look, we've taken it as far as we can take it. They made all of their code, all of their documentation, everything they just giving away to the world, and they're saying, make it better, faster. And so last weekend, some kids up at Berkeley that were in this research group, they're like, we're gonna do that. So in less than 1 month, with $0 raised and $30 in training, a couple of kids were able to replicate and beat, in many cases, all of the math and algorithms and everything used by DeepSeek. It's incredible how fast it's going to change. The second thing that you're going to see change this year is this: AI tools. So AI tools are built to use AI to do a specific thing in your business. So you may have an AI tool that helps you in sales or marketing or customer service. Since ChatGPT came out, it seems like everyone is like creating and launching an AI tool. There's like 50,000 of these things, and like 25 of them work. The biggest problem with AI tools is what's happened is they're being built by tech people, and there's no thought about the user on the other end. So when you buy them, what happens is you start to implement it, and you're like, damn, this is really tough. Like, I need to bring in an engineer to do this. And as a result, last year, on average, only 5% of people or companies who bought an AI tool ever pushed it live. That's changing. In the last 6 months, there's been a ton of investment by VCs into these companies saying, fix the interface, make it as easy as you possibly can. And so that's what we're gonna start to see over the next 6 months happen. Now, AI agents, that's a whole different thing. They're like the hot thing that you hear about right now in the press. But the reality is they're not gonna become easy and useful for another 6 to 12 to 18 months. But let me tell you what it is that they do. What an AI agent does is this, is they can solve a variety of different problems, and they can do it on their own. So here's an example. I could go on my computer, and I could pull up a site, and I can say to an AI agent, I want you to create an ad campaign to help me sell more tickets at my next AI event. And here's what would happen. You hit go, and as you're watching your browser, it's kind of creepy, all these like tabs are gonna start to open. And what it's gonna do is it's gonna go into your Google Drive, and it's gonna select the best picture to convert for this task. Then what it's gonna do is it's gonna go on Safari, and it's gonna do competitive analysis. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna take all this and go to ChatGPT, and it's gonna say, write me copy. And then what it's gonna do is it's gonna go to another app, and it's gonna say, make an ad. Then what it's gonna do is it's gonna log in as you to your Instagram, and it's gonna put 2 ads up, and it's gonna A/B test them. Then what it's gonna do is see what the results are, it's gonna optimize all of that for you, and once that's happened, it's gonna go back in, pay to run more ads for you. And then 48 hours from the time that you hit go, you're gonna get a report that says, this is everything I've learned, what do you wanna do? So we're about 6 to 12 months away from that being really helpful and easy to use and useful. And next year, I guarantee you, every one of your companies is gonna hire somebody to manage all of your AI agents. And then the last thing I wanna mention here is this, is that over the next year, AI is gonna become a lot smarter. And think of it this way, AI stands for artificial intelligence. It's where we are today. It's smart, but it's limited. Think of using Siri. What's gonna come this year is AGI, artificial general intelligence. What that means is the AI will inherently have the intelligence of one human being, probably a PhD. So when you ask it to do something, it can now think and reason and solve problems for itself. What's coming in 10 years or less is ASI. That's artificial superintelligence. That means the AI has the collective intelligence of every single human on the planet. And at that point, it's more intelligent and smarter than us in every way. Like that's the Terminator type of thing. So finally, the last section, what does this mean for your business and how can we start to apply it today? First thing, some key takeaways. AI is absolutely the most important and disruptive force in human history. What you're gonna see over the next 5 to 10 years will be as, if not more disruptive than the wheel. And we're at the starting line right now. And so all of the money has been going to infrastructure in order to lay the right foundation. This year in 2025, like I mentioned before, everything's gonna become cheaper, it's gonna be easier to use, and it's gonna be exponentially smarter for small business. But here's the most important thing I want you to take away. In 2026, the world is gonna have its oh shit moment. And I'm gonna tell you what that means. What that means is when we started companies at the end of 94 for the internet, and in 95, and in 96, we were laying foundation. right? Everything was hard to use. It was really hard to get businesses to come online. It's just too complicated. It wasn't a priority. And then what happened is early in 97, it was like everybody woke up on the same day and they're like, oh shit, I need a website. And that, I get it. I get e-commerce now. I get why I have to be on the internet. Oh man, the tools are easy to use. So what happened was that moment was when the dot-com boom started. That moment for AI is the beginning of next year. And so I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of things I don't know, but the one thing I know is this: it's that the people who invest their time and learn and train and test AI this year are gonna be the biggest winners over the next 5 years. You're gonna be the kind of people, the kind of companies that when that moment happens, you're not caught flat-footed. And as a result, you're exponentially ahead of your competition. So finally, I wanna say this, I wanna share this. It's like, where do we start? If we're not using AI in our business, where do we start today? And the answer is this: with all the news and all the noise and all the new announcements, all you need to focus on is one thing. AI is a tool. AI is a tool that can help me to solve a problem inside of my business. So what I encourage you to do, if you haven't already, is to pick one problem that you want to solve, one problem that you want to test. Then let's find an AI tool, and it can range from ChatGPT to Delphi, anywhere across the spectrum. And let's start to implement it and see what we learn. And I want you to apply what I call the 20% rule. And what the 20% rule is this: the 20% rule means that if you are able to see a 20% improvement, increase, benefit, however you measure it, 20% from whatever you're testing, that is an absolute home run. And be sure this year that you're not only investing in your education, but you're investing in your team's education. That's gonna be infinitely important. So to wrap, if there's anything that you guys need, you have any questions, need any resources, you can hit this QR code right here. If you want to download this presentation, you can do it from there as well. Does anybody have any questions about any of this stuff? I know it's a lot of data. Okay, cool. Well, I want to thank all of you guys for being here today. Good luck on kind of your AI journey. If you ever have any questions, please reach out. And once again, thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you so much, Scott. Let's give him another round.